Brent, this is not our typical venue for our podcast.
No.
But we're here at the San Antonio Manufacturers Trade Show.
Yeah.
And thought it'd be fun to catch up because you and I haven't seen each other much the last few months.
That's right. No, I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah. So yeah, if there's noise in the background, that's because we're in a live trade show right now. They're actually getting ready to start doing some raffles and stuff. But one of the reasons I wanted to chat with you.
If I win, I'm going to walk away from this conversation, though. So
or if they start playing some Frank Sinatra or something. But yeah, so what I wanted to talk about for a minute or two is why is it important for leaders to be out in the community? Like you're part of Rotary, you've been at trade shows, you've been invited to speak on panels. Why should leaders be out in the community?
You and I have talked about ecosystem a lot, and we like to. One of my pet peeves is when somebody says something is the most important thing. And I think typically there's going to be a whole list of essential things. And if you're without any one of those essential things, you're going to be less than your full potential at the best, or just completely unhealthy. And so I think one of those things is just relationships, and even just relationships for relationships' sake. I think when we're in business, we often think every relationship has to be tied to an immediate value proposition or a sale, or a customer or business, a business outcome just from that. And so we're often hesitant to use company time or business time if we're owners, even just to pull away from the day-to-day operations and invest in a relationship that may not have some obvious short-term benefit for us. Mm-hmm. And coming into an environment like a trade show like this, where there are really like a couple thousand people here, and so guaranteed that I don't know a lot of these people here. And so you walk in this place with, maybe there's a couple people that I really want to go and visit with, but for the most part, I'm just here for whatever opportunity, whatever, chance relationship walks in front of me. And I just start getting to know somebody for the sake of getting to know somebody. If we make a sale, we make a sale. Otherwise, you just invest in people and you build some relationships. And if we don't do that, there's like a big part of the well-balanced diet that we're going to be missing when we need it. And if all we do, it's kind of like skipping leg day. If you go to the gym and all you do is arms and you don't have your legs when you need to actually go and move. So it's an important part for a leader to get out there and just build relationships that you didn't do it because you had an obvious need for building that relationship. It's just, there's somebody, it's another human being. Just start having a conversation, get to know them a little bit better. Sometimes something comes with it, sometimes it doesn't. But we miss out on so much if we never do that.
Do you imagine that some of this is like geographical? People in the South are friendlier, so it's easier to go out to events like this? Or do you think it's a worldwide, is it a human thing?
Right. So there is a human thing, I believe. There is a core human thing that we just can't get away from that needs relationship. And it's whether you're an extrovert or an introvert, it can affect that. But every single human needs relationship and community. And I think it's a principle thing. It's not just a preference. Even if I perhaps do my best work when I'm alone, that doesn't mean that I need to always be alone. If I'm always just doing my best work alone, I'm going to miss out on so much essential things to being a leader, to being a professional. So much learning happens from other people's experience, from hearing other people's perspectives on things. So being in the South, I think people are naturally a little bit more friendly, I guess. But that doesn't change it being a universal need. So maybe if you're not naturally friendly or naturally an extrovert, you're going to have to be intentional to get out. You mentioned things like Rotary or SAMA. Like I woke up this morning, I've got a long list of things to do. It would have been pretty easy for me to just say, you know what, it's a better use of my time to just stay home and get my to-do list done. Yet, I can tell you at the end of the day, it was incredibly valuable for me to be here. Even though my to-do list probably got longer, this was an incredibly valuable thing for me to be at. And I'm richer, or my businesses are going to flourish more. I know it's just, I'm glad I was here. And this took an obligation for me to be here. I had a booth here, so I had to show up today. I was involved. Rotary is one of those things where you commit yourself to relationships. And so I think as leaders, we can choose to do some things like that. Because if we don't intentionally get into relationships and into communities or places like this, the noise of everyday, especially business ownership, the noise of all the things to do are going to keep us in our cave inside of our business. And before we know it, we don't know anybody out in the community. I share this story sometimes. This was quite a few years ago. There's a place in Boerne, Texas called Bear Moon. They used to have this fantastic breakfast buffet that I don't think they have anymore. But I remember we would go there often with our family. Every time we walked in, there's this table of old guys. I think I've told you this story before. There's a table of old guys, like a dozen old guys. And something struck me like, when I'm that age, I don't know if I'm going to have a table of old guys to sit down with. And I think I really want one. And it's going to take me making a decision today to develop those relationships so that when I'm 70 and 80 and retired, that I actually have a table of old guys that I can go sit down with and have those relationships and friendships that are of the real value.
Yeah. That's cool. I think it does have to be intentional, regardless of if you're in the business community or like even if you're in church. Say some of the people viewing this, it's easy to just go to church sometimes.
Right.
It's a different commitment to get involved with people at your church, right? Even the same thing true for people that are maybe not business owners but employees. You have to consciously engage with people around you.
Right.
I mean, it's not just. It's easy. It's easy for us to get wrapped up in ourselves, and so focused on me and my four and no more, and and before you know it, months have gone by or years have gone by,
right?
And you don't have those deep relationships.
It takes effort, takes energy, and like anything valuable, there's a price to pay. And so I think having relationships, it takes a price. There's an old proverb that says, if you want to have friends, you have to show yourself friendly.
Yeah.
And so I think, an extension of that is if I look around and I don't have any friends, it could be because I haven't been showing myself friendly. And maybe I'm not naturally friendly, and I need to find a way to just go be friendly. Rotary is one of those places. Church is another one of those places. Although even at church, like I joke, I enjoy volunteering to do sound or things because then I don't have to talk to anybody. I can just go to church and volunteer and do work. But then I lose out on all the relationships, and there's just so much value in relationships. And that said, I think there's another ditch too. As much as there's a ditch on just getting my stuff done and staying in there, there's another ditch of me just getting hooked on just all the fun of being at a trade show and the relationship and the connecting, the networking, and never going and getting work done. So there's ditches on both places. So I think there's a few things, right? It costs me something. I need to be intentional about it. It needs to be a part of my leadership diet. I need to go learn stuff. I need to be reading books. I need to be managed by walking around, investing in my internal team. I need to be spending time on strategy and the numbers. And I also need to be spending time outside of the moat of my business that made me feel comfortable back behind that and get out there and visit with the whole community.
For somebody that's not gotten out in the community a lot, what would you say is like a good place to start or a good frequency to start with? Like you're right. You can go, man, I'm spent all my time at community things this last year and my business is suffering for it. Yeah. Or I'm so focused on my business, I'm never in the community. Right. Have you found in your research or as you're just going through life or talking to folks, is there kind of maybe a sweet spot for the typical person?
I like fractals, right? And fractals are the patterns that repeat at different layers. So I think to some extent there's an important daily rhythm of, man, if I've been holed up in my office and I haven't had any human connection all day, I should probably do something. And that's probably going to be my close family relationships, making sure I'm spending some time there. Perhaps it's the water cooler at work. But as far as getting outside of those really close circles, I've been noticing personally a weekly rhythm seems to be a great sweet spot. And that can be your weekly church services. It can be weekly Rotary. And then there's other things that tend to happen monthly. and even annually, like this thing. It's funny. There's probably a dozen people here where we see each other once a year at SAMA, and it's like, hey, SAMA buddy, and I haven't seen you in a year, and we just kind of pick up where we left off last time, and some of us were threatening each other to follow up with a meeting in between. I don't know if it was going to happen or not, right? But it's kind of our joke, like, hey, we should have coffee, sometime before the next SAMA trade show. So I think there's different intimacies of relationships, and I think our most intimate relationships would be pretty frequent. And we should be intentional about those, because if we're busy, we're going to miss out on those. I think as you kind of move into the different transactional relationships or just community relationships, a little bit less frequent, but something weekly, monthly, maybe like organizations that you're in that are meeting monthly, chambers, things like that have monthly meetings. And then annual stuff like this, where the nice thing with an annual, you tend to have people from broader geographic. There's a lot of people who travel to something like this. And so it's a nice place where I'm never going to see people who from Dallas and Austin in the manufacturing space unless I come to this. And I enjoy getting to visit with those folks.
Yeah, I think it's it seems like our society in general is, for several years now, been extremely me focused.
Yep.
And I like what you said a moment ago. It's not just intentionality, but it's a recognition that it's going to take energy.
Yes.
Right. So it's not. You didn't wake up this morning going, "Yay, I get to go to a trade show." You woke up this morning like, "Crap, I got a lot of stuff to do."
Yeah.
Right. But I said I was going to be at the trade show. People are counting on me.
It's kind of like the gym. I think at least to get started, it's going to take some real intentionality to create a new habit of getting out to relationships. For me, I've been doing things like Rotary long enough. I don't have to convince myself it's time to go to Rotary. I've spent all this money. I got to go show up. It's like, I don't want to miss Rotary for anything. I'll decline other meetings and things because that 90 minutes of my week is really valuable now, because I put the work into having some relationships there. Now, when I first started, it was be like, I don't really know anybody there. I don't know if it's all that valuable for me to, skip, what I'm doing to go to Rotary.
But now it is.
You had to push through it. Yeah. And I think people who have pushed through it to go to the gym, they're like, you can't do anything to make me miss my gym routine, because they know the value. They have joy in doing it there. So I think that's, inviting leaders to push through, to develop those relationships, as awkward as they might be, get out there, put the energy into it. Yeah, it's a great point. Really good point.
Yeah. And I like what you said earlier about, different people are gifted differently, right? So the extreme introvert, the extreme extrovert, but both need people, right? And so the extrovert probably has to work at not doing too many of these things, and the introvert has to work at doing more of them, right?
Probably so.
That's a general rule.
Yeah.
Right? And honestly, I've got a friend who's an introvert, and this kind of thing wears him out. Like, he's got to go home and sleep after it a bit because it's so extroverted kind of environment. But if I get him one-on-one, he'll talk for 2 hours straight,
Right.
and be fine, be energized. And we can't have it, everybody owes me energy. Yes, I'm going to have to invest some energy. But as you're making those investment choices, think about what brings you energy when it's over. Like, for you, at the end of the day, you're going to go home, wow, that was a really good day.
Yeah.
Right? Because of the way you're wired.
Right.
Right. If my friend was here today, he's going to go home and sleep.
Yes.
But then he's going to talk about it one-on-one with me on, the weekend for 2 hours about who we met and what he saw. And
it's okay to feel tired after a good relationship interaction. That's fine. I mean, you're supposed to feel tired after a good gym workout too, so that's fine. Yeah, for sure. And I think another thing is too, like when you come to a place like this, you feel like everything has to be transactional, like every conversation has to lead to a sale. And I think one of the joys of just more enjoying things like this is like just letting go of that responsibility of where I have to have every conversation lead to a sale, and just get interested in the humans there. Even asking about little things. People like talking about little things sometimes. You don't have to be talking about changing the world all the time. And sometimes talking about the little things is the only pathway to get to talking about changing the big things.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, that's a good point. It'd be really weird to jump straight into a deep relationship.
Yeah.
Right. So there is some kind of dating in any relationship that, you see somebody, hey, what brings you here today? What are your hobbies? Do you have any family? Those standard questions.
Yeah.
But we use those to start to understand what's important in that person's life, what they value, what they enjoy, and then if there's some synergies there, that turns into a deeper relationship, a deeper friendship.
They're not willing to talk about anything significant until you've kind of earned some trust through the little things. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
And I think that's, we talk a lot about business or try to apply things to business. I think that's even true in business. Like, I'm in a new season, so as I'm getting to know people in that organization, I can't just walk up and go, hey, what are all your fears and failures? Right? Probably ought to ask them, like, how long you been here?
Right.
What do you enjoy about what you do? I got to build a little bit of rapport before I go try to give them their annual review tomorrow.
Right.
And so I think a lot of what we're talking about here applies in all kinds of relationships.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like an onion, you can't get to the deeper layers until you've spent some time investing in the shallow layers. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for your time. I was like, can't be in the same building and not shoot a podcast, even if it is kind of a unique setting.
It's been a good time.
Yeah, I'm glad we got to catch up.
Thanks, Joel.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of A Leader's Journey podcast. If you enjoyed it, give us a thumbs up and remember to subscribe to our channel.